We all know that this business is built on gaining contacts. We know from the DMOs, and we talked about it last week, whether you want to set for 2 a day, 3 a day, 5 a day. 5 a day is aggressive, and that's what's going to build your business. I guarantee you, if you're making 5 brand new contacts, not follow-ups, brand new contacts every single day, you cannot help but blow your business up if you're doing it the right way. In other words, you make the contact and now you're establishing a relationship with that new person. And that's the challenge, right? Because as you're doing this and you get more and more contacts and more people are replying and you're building these relationships in 3 days, say you got 10 people now you're trying to have communication with. In 4 or 5 days, you got 20 people or more, right? So, but that's a good thing because now you're building your well, right? And then eventually we work them into being trying out the product or starting out as a business owner. So that's why 5 contacts is a very aggressive, but it works. 2 contacts a day is better than nothing, and 1 contact is absolutely better than nothing. This is probably actually a good place. I had it in the bottom. This is something I read in a book just this morning, I think. It says, if your mouth is closed, your business is closed. If you're not talking to people about your business, no one will think you are serious about it, or even worse, they may think you are not doing it anymore. And then that comes back into this, well, people are giving me a hard time because I'm in network marketing, or you're selling that thing, or you're doing that thing. Well, that's where you got to check your belief and have an honest conversation with yourself. Are you serious about doing this business? Because if you are, then they're the ones that are in the wrong. All right. They're the ones that are trying to take away your belief, your strength, your hopes, your dreams, where you are, and they're trying to take that away from you. Why would you give your power away to somebody else? And this is also why we harp so much on personal growth, because you are going to get these attacks. They're going to come from places that we don't want them to come from. Our family and our friends, right? Our closest people. Look, Craig. I mean, I'll bring up our friend Craig, that Jack, he's my best friend growing up. He lived right across the street. We did everything together. And at any time I ever brought up anything about network marketing, one of those kinds of guys, right? Well, it hurts a little bit, right? And so that's going to happen. Same thing with my whole family dissed me, especially when I first started in this industry. But I didn't let that stop me. But I can tell you, there's been times when I've pulled back from social media and I haven't been as out there. But I can tell you that is completely gone from my persona now. I could care less what other people think because they're not paying my bills. They didn't bring me home from work to be able to be home with my wife and go out and do the things that we love to do on a daily basis. So screw them. It's so to speak, right? I love everybody. Don't get me wrong, right? But that's the mindset is what I'm getting at. All right. They don't own me. And if I allow them to to take that power away from me, that's the best way I can say it. If they allow me to affect me and how I approach my business, screw them. All right. I just don't have time for that. I'm going to go out and find people that are in alignment, like all of you, with what we have. And that's why making these new friendships, these new contacts on a daily basis is so critically important. Um, I wanted
But you're
to,
all passionate.
oh man, I'm fired up. There was something that, we're starting this. I guess this is a good time to bring this up again too. Developing the leader within you. Anyone that wants to join us, we're going to start it on 1st of November. Jack and I have already started, but that doesn't matter. I may even start it back over again. All right, Tom, good job. Because there's just a wealth of information. And we just had a birthday dinner with Nurka, and Elka brought up to her, every time Guy reads a book, oh, there's Charlotta. Every time Guy reads a book, and I know, Melinda, this is really tough for you. But every time Guy reads a book, he highlights it in different colors. So this time I'm going around and doing it in purple because it's a color I haven't used before. And anyhow, I wanted to read you from this. I
And
know.
he stops reading the books when everything is marked in all different colors. No.
But here's one that's got this page has got multiple, and I just put another star. I had a star over here. I've got writings up here. So this is kind of like an important paragraph, right? So I just want to read it all to you because I want to encourage everybody to read this book with us in November. We're going to do it together as a team. And then on Mondays, you get a couple minutes to share what you got out of that book that past week. So what is also that encourage you to do? To journal as you're going along. If you want to have an accountability partner, so Jack and I are paired up as an accountability partner. You can do that with one or two or three other people, and you can get on a text message group amongst the two or three of you and text message back, what did you get out of today's reading? But on Mondays, we're going to recap for the week. All right, so that's why journaling is really important as well. But I want to read this paragraph for everybody because it applies to what I was just talking about as well, especially when it comes around personal growth. The subject of our attitude is so important for potential leaders that the next chapter will be given to totally. Therefore, a few thoughts will be sufficient at this time. Norman Vincent Peale, okay, one of my favorite authors, was right when he said that positive thinking is how you think about a problem, enthusiasm is how you feel about a problem. The two together determine what you do about a problem. So, how you think about a problem is your positive thinking, but your enthusiasm behind this business, your passion behind this business, your why behind this business is how you feel about a problem. So, if I got negative people coming at me on social media and I allow them to affect my enthusiasm over my business, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to lose the enthusiasm and my business is going to suffer. You cannot allow that to happen. The two together determine what you do about a problem. If I could do anything for people, I would help them change their perspective, their perspectives, not their problems. How do you know you got to, how do I know that Joe's got problems? How do I know that Tammy's got problems? How do I know that Steven's got problems? Because they're breathing. He says, he says later, a couple pages later, he talks about, you know what the problem with milking cows is? They still need to be milked. In other words, the problem's never going to go away, right? So deal with it, but now change the mindset and the worldview of how you perceive those problems. Positive thinking does not always change our circumstances, but it will always change us. Wow, that's powerful statement. Positive thinking does not always change our circumstances, but it will always change us. When we are able to think right about tough situations, then our journeys through life become better. And that is one of the reasons why Brad and we harp on this personal growth. That's why we have a personal growth tab and boards I've talked about before. There's now probably over 100 in there. If you started out with just listening to one of those a day, all right, you'd have 100 days. That's a third of the year. We're at day 300 in the year right now, right? So if you did
Mhm.
that 3 times, you would have listened to one every single day for 300 days since January 1st. So it's just the idea, and it's because you got to stay in the game. You cannot allow. Why do people do these roller coasters here with this business? They're all fired up and then they back off, and then they're all fired up and they back off. It's because they don't have that inner strength to overcome those outside influences that are attacking. All right, so that's my let's do this together.